You've just had the worst day of your life. You walk in, drop your keys, and instead of heading for the couch, you just sink down onto the living room floor. You haven't said a word. You haven't made a sound. Your eyes are still dry. And yet within seconds, there he is. Crossed the whole house, walked past his toy, walked past his own bed, and pressed a wet nose right against your wrist. Before the first tear, most people assume the dog saw that you were upset, that he read your face, clocked your slumped shoulders. It seems obvious, but the behavioral science tells a much stranger story. Because your dog didn't see your sadness. He detected it minutes earlier in a way no human in that room ever could. And what he does next is one of the rarest forms of empathy that exists between two species on this planet. And most owners read it completely wrong. Let's start with the easy explanation. He saw you cry. Reasonable, right? Here's the problem. Your dog does the exact same thing in the dark. He does it when your back is turned. He does it from another room, with the door closed, before you let out a single sob. If this were about sight, none of that would be possible. He'd be reacting to something there's nothing to see yet. So the question changes. It's not how did he see it. It's how did he know before there was anything to see? The answer is that your dog doesn't observe your sadness from the outside. He feels it from the inside, through smell, through your breathing, through the tension in the air of the house. And then he does something almost no animal does when it senses suffering nearby. Instead of backing away, he walks toward you. Researchers at Goldsmiths, University of London, ran an experiment that's beautifully simple. They put 18 dogs in a room with their owner and a complete stranger. At random moments, either the owner or the stranger would start to cry or hum a little tune in an odd sing-song way. The humming was there on purpose, to test whether the dog came over just out of curiosity. The result? The dogs moved toward whoever was crying, far more than toward whoever was humming. But here's the detail that changes everything. They didn't run to their owner. They went to the person who was crying, even when that was the stranger. If the dog were looking for comfort for itself, it would go to its owner, its source of safety. That's not what happened. The dog was responding to the person's emotion, not to its own need. That's the behavior of someone offering comfort, not someone asking for it. But how does he know you're hurting before you give off a single sign? This is where it gets almost unsettling. In 2022, researchers at University Belfast published a study in the journal PLOS One. They collected breath and sweat samples from 36 people at 2 moments, relaxed, and right after a stressful math task. Then they trained 4 dogs to sniff out the difference. The accuracy was 93.75%. In 675 out of 720 trials, the dogs correctly singled out the sample from the stressed person. No face to see, no voice to hear. Just the smell. And it worked even with the scent of people they'd never met. Think about what that means. Stress chemically changes the way your body smells, and your dog's nose reads that change. When you come home after a terrible day, he doesn't need you to tell him anything. He already smelled it at the door. He knew before you sat down. And it doesn't stop at the nose. When your dog picks up on your emotional state, something called emotional contagion kicks in. Your emotion literally transfers to him. His nervous system mirrors yours. When you're at peace, he relaxes. When you fall apart, his body goes on alert right along with you. He isn't watching you suffer from a distance. He's feeling an echo of your pain inside himself. Which raises an uncomfortable question. If feeling your pain hurts him too, why does he come? Why not move away from what's hurting? That's exactly what one group of researchers set out to measure. The study has a perfect name. Timmy's in the Well, a nod to Lassie. 34 dogs were separated from their owners by a clear door. The door was held shut with nothing but magnets, weak enough for any dog to push open. On the other side, the owner would cry. The dogs with a strong bond pushed through the door to reach the crying owner. But here's the twist nobody expects. The dogs that opened the door weren't the most distressed ones. They were the calmest. The researchers found something counterintuitive. The dogs that felt your pain too strongly got paralyzed by it. The ones who could actually help were the ones who felt it, but could regulate their own panic enough to act. It's exactly like humans. We can only rescue someone when we can hold our own desperation together. If your dog doesn't run to you when you cry, it's not that he doesn't care. Sometimes it's that he loves you too much. And your pain is too big for him to bear. So go back to that moment. You on the floor, no sound, not a single tear yet. And your dog crossing the room. He's not coming out of curiosity. He smelled you. He felt, in his own body, an echo of what you're feeling. Even though every instinct is telling him to move away from what's wrong, he chose to come toward you, to lean into you. To stay. There isn't much in nature like that. An animal that walks toward the pain of another species, just so it won't have to face it alone. All of that sensitivity comes at a cost. If your dog feels your pain, he carries it too. Research shows that dogs and their owners can actually synchronize their stress hormones over time. When you go through a long, heavy stretch, your dog is going through it with you quietly right beside you. So if you're in a hard season, watch your dog. Changes in appetite, in sleep, more restlessness, or more withdrawal than usual. Sometimes what looks like he's acting a little off is really your dog absorbing the emotional climate of the home. Taking care of yourself, slowing down, asking for help, is also taking care of him. The two of you are together. So the next time you sink to the floor and feel that wet nose find your wrist, remember what's really happening. Your dog didn't see your sadness. He smelled it at the door, he felt it in his own body, and he chose you anyway. If this changed the way you see your dog, subscribe and tell me in the comments, when was the time your dog comforted you? If you want to understand why your dog follows you everywhere, the reason runs deeper than you'd think. See you in the next video.